All hope is lost for the poor world of randomness as SMG4 prepares to leave his closest paisano behind and says his goodbye to the audience. Within the in-universe reality, we see Luke forced to close his channel and retire the SMG4 brand. It's unknown whether their other projects can survive on their own, or whether he plans on finding another career path that brings him joy or a stable living, if nothing else. With the channel taken down, the meme lord becomes a lifeless corpse and most traces of his influence died out with him, as the world he's shaped isn't destroyed, but sterilized into the bleak state implied by the corporate dictator. Presumably, some time passes as Mario has gone back to his old line of work, where it's nowhere near as exciting as its official counterpart, and suffers from depression. His life has been reduced to a boring husk from what it used to be, and refuses to comply with his creator that helped it get into this mess. God knows what could happen if he and his traditional cast were to go on strike if they remembered the previous events. During a bathroom break, he takes off his cap and out comes a piece of toilet paper which he hands over to Phoenix Wright in the next stall. He recognizes the paper as the parody law article Maggie wrote down. Mario realizes she snuck it in his hand moments before the mines, and is emotionally relieved he has another chance in life. He takes a stand to bring his friends back by sneaking through headquarters and running to the courthouse. Lawyer Kong, with his ego on full display, has ignored wiping all of his clients' memories in favor of taking down anyone who touches modified content. The moment he spots him, he doesn't hesitate to alert the ninjas, and the plumbers chase around the building. Mario manages to enter the courthouse and deliver the papers to Judge Kirby, successfully reviving his unusual friends from immoral purgatory. However, the judge declares another trial in order to prove they are safe to be around Mario and secure their freedom in the Nintendo-oriented world. But they don't have a lawyer to back up their case. Thankfully, Maggie steps in and puts her law skills to good use with her training position. The SMG4 crew is set one more fight against a tyrannical conglomerate, but what will be their ultimate catch? 8 out of 10. When Mario's character is portrayed with a heart of gold, it can produce a feel-good episode despite the beginning's gloomy themes. What other viewers forget or choose to ignore, if you ask me, is that Mario can be a lunatic that causes mayhem on a consistent basis, and also pretty selfish while doing so. But at the same time, it isn't impossible for him to be a hero that cares about his friends and family regardless of circumstances, akin to what the real Mario will do. It's as if they understand there's a time and place for stupidity. Otherwise, the series would be a humongous mess, even more so than what others already think if only feature him doing whatever he wants inconsequentially. One convenient hit this episode has this inclusion of the live action scene, implying the universe is actually dependent on Luke's input among the channels staying up instead of an avatar being alive, as well as determining the previous saga. However, the real world coexisting with SMG4 has been no secret since Revelations or Mario in real life for that matter, and considering this show has been done the excessively non-canon episodes before and recently, it's totally up for debate. Pretty much a chicken or the egg scenario. It's a sensible answer over the detractors, claiming they're retconning previous stories that they ironically don't appreciate, which a lot of people sadly believe. But before burning that bridge for good, it's time to cover the special that determines the future of the series. So without further ado, the case of SMG4 versus Nintendo begins with the two lawyers presenting their defenses, which then devolves in mudslinging as if we're a presidential election. In order for the trial to go somewhere, the defendant SMG4 suggests that judge to drop the conventions in favor of familiar competition. His idea urges Kong to brainwash the Nintendo characters to fight against a foreign group, fulfilling the quota of the special, which, need to I remind you, was only broken once. My favorite challenges this time around are, of course, the largest mustache. Yes, I know who submitted this one. Trust me, we'll get to them later. Seen through Bob's backstory. The greatest ship known to man. respecting each other's opinions, and are lost to time. Running a successful OnlyFans, being the young funniest, painting the best self-portrait, fighting the One Piece in the least amount of time, just as I were writing this Ash one finally won a Pokemon World Championship. Thought you might know. The best one here is angering Twitter, to which SMG4 successfully does by being himself. Oh, believe me, we're definitely going to that again. And finally forcing Falco to make a real Team Fortress update. All challenges are complete, but the verdict has yet to be determined. So both groups present their arguments in song without explaining away their lyrics. The gist is the mere existence of SMG4's world and adventures affecting Nintendo's marketability and image as Laura Kong claims. Before and everyone who is transported to the Mushroom Kingdom never set out to disrespect the most popular game franchise, only transforming it as its own over time without intentionally abandoning anything that's ever been featured in the games. Surely, if they really didn't care about Mario franchise, they would have given the pesky plumber the boot at some point. Judge Kirby finishes the trial, declaring SMG4 innocent, rendering the DMC null and void. Kong, in utter defeat, snaps and transforms back into his old funky self. What are the odds? This implies his scheme was revenge for Mario destroying his NFT business, though it was going to die on its own anyway, let's be real. But his reason aren't explained, so goes back to selling weapons like he did during the DK Cruise Collectathon days. The celebration gets halted by Judge Kirby, who turns out to be Miyamoto in disguise, with the real Kirby on standby. He secretly witnessed their journey's investigation of his dear stars taking part in them were negatively affecting his business, and decided to run a mock trial to test their loyalty. Even though the Super Mario brand has gained near immunity worldwide, regardless of whatever parody artist touches or joke is thrown at the series. For what they had to go through these last few episodes, I think Guru Larry needs to update this list. Going out the real events, according to certain Mario fans, the creator has actually been determined to the franchise as of late because managed regarding the spin-offs, since the games have usually been anti-story. If they could take a closer look, he's taking time to remedy those problems, such as producing a movie that brings life into the Mario universe. If SMG4's Miyamoto wasn't that Miyamoto, Mario and the company would definitely be doomed, but luckily they don't want he's completely fine with his sons hanging out with the diverse sets of characters. However, he requires SMG4 to become distinct from his plumber breathing if he wants to continue his wacky adventures in the Mushroom Kingdom. His time being a self-insert color change on Mario is up, but he stops knowing he could stay with his friends, which is all that matters. Signing the final contract, he transforms into what he could be considered his truest form that doesn't risk his own in any danger. 3 on the whim also changed look to a little fanfare, making him identical to his former rival with a beard. They appreciate his new look, simply ecstatic that he's still the same jokester underneath. Miyamoto interrupts again, wanting Bob and bookends alter out of exhaustion from comments throughout social media referencing that his characters are only depicted in this web series rather than respective games. The lone Garo had lost his obscurity over time when he joined the group 6 years ago, and as for bookends, he's personally stayed with him far away from the common Mario species he's part of. So they complain signing their own papers. Later, the game relaxes by Luigi's RV in the desert, knowing their home is, at least for the next year or so, safe and sound. Bob and Bookins are adjusting to their new forms. Luigi's cooking memes for the rest of the normalized Mushroom Kingdom residents, and 4 Megi take solace that their friends are pestered by monsters and nemesis. Mario's crying tears of joy after being forced to distance himself from his family and hopes he'll never go through that again. It may imply that SMG4 crew treat him much better than any of the Mario characters ever had. The only exception is being his flesh and blood, considering his games in the universe are depicting him as film shoots. Those guys could just be co-workers and friends to him aside from Bowser, Toad, and possibly the Wario Bros. If they ever got along. The special closest with funky, offering weapons to his former adversaries, and they take interest in buying some. Just in case their next foe is on the horizon. or their tendencies are catching up to them. It's uncertain who or what will cross paths with our silly pedicinos in the future. We finally reached the end of another storyline. Believe me, I'm being very honest here. I was also in the same camp of filming an original finale with a standalone fatted talents competition, but I didn't have the outcry to tell them it's what they should have done. War of the Valentines has practically moved on from its old format since 2019, likely due to the crew burning out or lacking interest after so long, transforming into a grand finale as it was first a great change of pace. But I'll admit, it needs some new ideas, and that's coming from someone who doesn't call them zero effort. I assume it's why they created the main game special, a free-for-all hosted by Mario where the stakes are lower but the cast get a better chance to shine to Cuphead State. The idea of SMG4 vs Mario hasn't got anywhere if you take the context of the story. 2018 had them fighting under Waluigi's control. 2021 had the game fighting Mario clones created by Niles Crystal, and you could make a case that was the real Plumber's idea, and this special had the Paisanos brainwashed by Funky. The only time they broke this rule was when Mario and 4 team out to bring on 3's failed empire, and this is why I don't have the impression they're neglecting a sacred tradition, because its spirit lies with Wolf D continuing instead of dying out. The truth is while YouTube channels are more personal than mainstream media, they outreach widely Ferraris, especially if the channel is super active with enough subscribers. The audiences have almost no control of someone's content, and when they usually do, the owner's ideas are hardly taken into consideration. It becomes a clash of egos. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. I was personally expecting another fight battle where the crew throws down against Nintendo with weapons and their bare fists. Then Wolf D would serve as the epilogue, ironically enough. There's one notable thing that separates it from the past finales. The characters don't engage in actual fight among other differences throughout the arc, making it easier to tell they did try something different this time. This still wasn't the special I really wanted, but that doesn't mean it's not a good episode to watch. So it gets a 7.5 out of 10. Because I personally thought the pacing was slower than the last time, and Funky Kong had the opportunity to explain his motivation instead of 180ing when his plans were ruined. If the ape dressing up as meant to be a joke the whole time, at least the new rap song is fantastic as ever, proclaiming that the show has always stood for insane lighthearted fun. As for my thoughts of the whole story and its impact on the show, that's what the following segment is for you're new to my reviews. Let's get started. If you're at all understanding of the show's direction, you know the Lawsuit arc wasn't set out to outdo the highs of the Cosmology saga, as I imagine. That would be pretty hard to top within the same year, no less. In fact, the story progressed quite similarly to the Waluigi and YouTube arcs, where they were almost linear and finished in about 2 months, which I assume that's what they're going for. Though the theme of the characters at risk of being wiped from existence has carried over 2 or 3 times to where I can understand why some viewers believe it's the same story all over again. While true from that perspective, the arcs have served different purposes for the series. YouTube introduced the Internet Graveyard and brought SMG3 out of the irrelevance. Cosmology was created with the anniversary in mind, explained the universe's true origin story in the game, saving the world from being destroyed. It also felt like a reward for keeping up with the show this long. And Lawsuit was intended to answer what would happen if Nintendo realized they're trapped in a fantasy they disagree with, so they try to take back what's theirs, while also lampshading their infamous real-world practice ever since it was brought to light in the community with the Big House fiasco of 2020. That little event is what killed the company's immunity and full-on good faith in its consumers, leaving a divide in its player base and fandom big enough to inspire this plot to begin with. It's a mystery if they won't pull a bad PR stunt like this again, or are set in their corporate way selling mediocre products. When they're known for releasing iconic gems at the same time, the state of the gaming industry reads like a Herculean tragedy, I swear. To make things clear. Just because I talk about the story positively doesn't mean I have my own criticism about it. I have said it's linear and wastes almost no time with its premise. The closest to the opposite of that is the Turf War montage in Splatoon 3 video, where the plot nearly takes a screeching halt. Its placement makes sense since it's about restoring Mario's memory, but taken out of context it will be like a part of a standalone parody, whether it's actually related to the newest game or not. The main cast of heroes is nothing groundbreaking because they are the same characters we see on a regular basis, but it doesn't mean none of them brought anything new to the table. The title character, to which you can make an argument he was too scared to do anything about it at first, showcases that he puts his acquaintances first over the notoriety of his adventures. Since the SMG4 channel in context of the story represents the fun he has with him and appreciates anyone who happens to watch. 4 is a borderline caregiver who will do anything to keep this illness going within moderation, and you can't blame the guy for being paranoid that it was almost taken away 4 times in a row. But when it did, he'd rather not be part of the world he doesn't seem to has his own. Maggie's knowledge of law, which was briefly tackled in Mario University, help enough to protect the freedom of her friends, regardless how many of them she knows. It's a nice little detail expanded upon here to make her character a jack of most traits. Mario, despite my ongoing criticism of him hogging the spotlight, was actually pleasant to see him stand up to an almighty foe. His desire to eating his precious gabagool took a backseat in an effort to put things back in the way they are. Funky Kong was a solid villain when he eradicated the Mushroom Kingdom's unique citizens, though immediately his motivation to do so left a lot to be desired. If the goal wasn't to make him a sympathetic antagonist like Waluigi or SMG3 or Niles to an extent, then having a villain just being an evil bastard is perfectly fine if that was the intent. The true highlight in my eyes, a real surprise, was Luigi, when he turns into a scientist set out to keep his meme-ridden homeland the way it is. Up until he was insulted, he wasn't the cowardly understudy he's expected to be and actually help out his family without hesitation, under a layer of satirizing an overexposed anti-hero from great crime drama suffering from superficial appreciation. Personally, I would like him to be more courageous without going bald, or the needs for muscles and yoga in the future. And as for the fun bit of trivia, Kirby suggests references the late lawyer John Kirby who helped Nintendo with a lawsuit. Funnily enough, from Universal for infringement against King Kong with their Donkey Kong arcade machines. The Big N may seem like an unforgivable tyrant now, but they have shown their weaknesses once in a while. My whole point is, don't fall for what the community repeats. There's a balance of humor and emotion throughout these stories. You just have to know when of these aspects takes priority to better understand them. But please don't take this as me forcing you to like the arcs. You're free to prefer simplicity or wish they could do better as long as you respect the decisions. Sadly, the so-called fans will rather do anything else but that, especially when it comes to both minor and major changes, and how they treat the subjective as objective. Case in point, the 4 new redesigns. This isn't a new trend by any means. If you look at Miggy, Psycho, and Old Man, visually you can tell they try to replicate the style and charm of the Mario series while adding their own touch. And their technique promise boils down to the engine to present it in. Your mileage may vary on these. If you even understand, they're still aware of their Mario roots. The true reason for SMG4's redesign is not to get any richer like a lot of folks immediately assume. It still have to distinguish the character from Mario while still representing himself as a Mario-themed content creator. The same goes to 4.3 regarding how James looks. Hell, Luke has hinted this at the end of 2019. And he's also poked fun at how they used to look so similar to Mario in the laundry episode. Yet I remember this community doesn't hesitate to ignore these details because he's making a mockery of another group he popularized some years ago that largely disrespects him for indirect association and not once purposely disrupting their idea of machinima. It is out of left field. They remember Bob and Bookends have also fallen into his category. Main characters based on pre-existing property, but with their obscurity removed. It was time for a makeover. What else do you think they give the elderly hobo one and not Swag, Chris, or other obscure characters part of the video game? Bob arguably had the best ones. It does represent his sleazy and try-hard nature, while Bookings has received the most criticism, and rightfully so. Though, if you remember him being called an aquatic turd once or twice, it started to make sense. Truthfully, these redesigns are, in my opinion, without a doubt, completely fine at best and harmless at worst. They deserve their purpose well, and you know. Mario and the rest of the Nintendo characters haven't changed at all. Here's a wild guess. They never considered banning Mario in the first place. If they did choose to redesign or remove these characters, that would definitely hurt the channel, both in the ratings and its identity. It's as if subjectively and taste are thrown out the window in favor of calling them terrible because they disagree with the reasons, and you bet your ass we're going there. Anyways, remember during the Genesis of Revelation when I said there would be a turning point for the series, as in something will fundamentally change? Well, I'm still holding on that prediction since it doesn't happen overnight. The special is a good placeholder to determine change, but it doesn't come immediately after. I still have yet to say what's different in this new era if a good chunk of videos from the last one don't feel the same. So I'll let you know in the coming year. For now, we've been hyping this up for long enough because honestly, we want to be done with this elephant in the room. That's right, we're tackling the reactions to this arc and airing out our beef with this wasteland of a community one last time. So please pay close attention. If you're curious or know this, please from the back of your hand, let's settle this once and for all. Can I just say I'm tired of this internet's bullshit at this point? There's being vocal about something terrible while demanding improvement and keeping honesty. But nowadays, it's all bunch of temper tantrums. Let's be perfectly clear. It's been 5 years. 5 years of bickering and scapegoating the innocent over a YouTube show that isn't even ours. The old days won't ever be forgotten, but the chances of it returning to form completely are long gone, and it should have been put to rest sooner than later. If SMG4 stayed the same in its peak years, I guarantee it will be no different than a generic comedy channel everyone else regularly makes fun of. People have claimed YouTubers are more within reach than a typical celebrity, yet I argue YouTubers are treated much worse and their audience are out of touch ones. It seems cancellation is slowly replacing genuine criticism, and accountability as hostility and reward is increasingly normalized. And eventually it will be fully okay to defend creators to the public unanimously, like until they tell you not to. Basically, the old SMG4 fans and bystanding detractors have taken the classic videos for granted, and they're trying to destroy the pedestal they built to their favorite online personality. I struggle to say anything new about these jerks. They keep gaslighting me to repeat myself because they are that insufferable. They never hesitate to ridicule and demonize Luke and his friends for making the content they sincerely want to make. And all they could do is get thrown hate for doing so, thinking it's all of spite when that's not even close to the truth. Considering they also recommend other channels like Shothat, for instance, I sincerely wish them for the best, hoping their audience won't turn on them too the moment they involve to do anything slightly different than their current videos. Even after getting their Twitter and Discord hacked by this piece of shit, they haven't slowed down on the bullying harassment that's not including the same shit towards the people who respect them like real fans do. Like a Green Emperor once said, how could such silly videos lead to such bitterness and resentment? It's a pure fact. Twitter is the culprit of this charade and its cultural toxicity. No reality check will ever save this place. So the only solution is the rapture after everything they endorse. It can't be more obvious why Luke poked fun at this place for breathing on his neck over meaningless motivational posts and such. And surprise, surprise, they don't care. They're the ones who started, for crying out loud. There are many crimes in need of justice that this hellscape almost never properly takes care of, at least leave alone immediately after relevancy. Those helping these criminals to get off easy. The new characters' designs aren't one of those problems. That people act like got changed from a show they already don't like or used to but never earnestly. It's equally of a national epidemic. I easily be convinced they're secretly diehard followers of Alex Jones who deny his reason for getting sued. Why I suggest that this is because they're back on their dead horse of SMG4 is SML 2.0, when there's enough evidence debunking this horse shit. They can't be bothered to look into it since they favor their own idea of comedy over delivering the right information. So I'm tempting to rectify that in hope of this nonsense finally dying as it should have ages ago. Believe me, this stuff wasn't even hard to find. Now, take a good look at these upload dates for these videos. At first glance, you might have or still believe this was a big coincidence due to them coming out in the same year. The episode where Maggie mutated into a human introduced the redesign trend in the series as an effort to make the character stand out in a world where anything goes. But it came in the price of greedy accusation thrown in their way. Every time Glitch has done this, they're criticized for prioritizing merchandise over good videos. Apparently, aside from funding their projects, paying their employees, or anything most YouTubers making a living have done for about a decade, they have absolutely no reason to sell that shit, so the brothers must be pocketing the cash all to themselves. By the way, isn't this what Logan guy is doing with his Mario series? Oh wait, it isn't called Super Mario Logan anymore. And that bald man in the red shirt can be everyone's favorite plumber, right? Well, what if I told you he replaced Mario out of fear, not because Nintendo was out for his blood, but the US government instead? The cease and desist surely overshadows this timeline of events, which might be a severe understatement, since this lie is apparently the truth. Just about anyone who's at least heard of SML thinks Logan changed the bar plushie into Ugly Pockets because Nintendo was tired of their characters' portrayals. By that I mean Bowser Jr. and friends being delinquents and Black Yoshi being himself and cheap adult humor that a Family Guy would reject. They are correct about being permanent, so they can making videos, but they're wrong about the reason Logan made them in the first place. He actually did it to circumvent COPPA, the thing why we have videos with the YouTube Kids button and restricted features. Logan thought he was in deep trouble with that bill, since he was using blush joys at the top of general public, mistaking Mario as a kids franchise despite most of the games being rated E for everyone. So he put all these cars into puppets. But I know first nobody but his fanboys at the time liked it. He was aware of the backlash, forcing him to write his statement to trick everyone that this was just a plan all along of how it reads. Sorry Logan, but this comes as a cheap excuse rather than being transparent with your fans. Not even this point he made a while later helped, so he went back to plushies but keeps switching to puppets thinking the criticism had died down. And he didn't stop at the Junior Trio redesign all the characters whenever he felt like. It's possible he ripped the idea from Luke Kevin hoping no one won't notice, and boy, I paid to see the roles getting reversed. Safe to say this down was Logan making extra money on the side, considering this was during a time YouTube would stop paying him every now and then, even though that was his own fault. He kept making enough stupid decisions to a point where he had completely removed himself from his roots in order to keep the lights on. Logan pandering to kids is why SML went down the toilet, and now he's stuck making a show that looks like a bad Christian cartoon. He comes from someone who is annoyed at him due to his actions and couldn't stand his newer episodes. I can't help but feel sorry for him after his personal life took a hit from all this. It's awfully telling of a community fulfilling content that's more popular than it deserves to be a while, at the same time promoting other content that virtually does the same thing, except it's more successful with a lack of integrity. Whatever SMG4 does makes them an easy tailgate in their eyes, but whenever SML is criticized for their shortcomings, they either keep their mouth shut or acknowledge they're hypocrites desperately trying to appear as an anti-establishment. What in the hell did they gain from this cancel culture circus?
Because it's fucking funny, Kyle! It's called having a sense of humor!
Shut your fucking mouth!
No problem, John.
Shut the fuck up, you cunt! Shut it!
Don't you see that type of attitude is what drives people away from happiness? And if their mental health were as fragile as glass, that could have been some serious consequence. I don't care if they have a ton of subscribers or followers, those kinds of actions driven way up a lot of YouTuber because the guys mocking him fail to see what he was going through. So don't fucking yell at me, creators don't grow the same shit we do regardless how successful they are. SMG4 doesn't deserve to be ridiculed for selling out and not making videos everyone likes. Newsflash, most popular YouTubers evolve over time. It should be acknowledged as a natural process. Even Logan's, who's done many things, worthy accountability doesn't need to be reminded of the burden he brought up to himself by people who don't care about him as a human being. His character design as of late may not help, but at the very least he's making an effort to keep himself out of trouble for the family he's currently raising. Unless he's turning into a next Austin McBroom, putting himself in debt and taking advantage of his child and his fans in the worst ways possible. Then feel free to call him an asshole. But right now, leave the man alone. Especially if you do love his videos. Alright. I just have one more thorn on my side to get out of my chest, and maybe I can finally move on from this non-issue that's haunted me for years. Watch out, guys. The chains are off. Big Liz, you're not an SMG4, you're not even a fanboy or a hater. You're a grifter. All you care about is notoriety from your complaints towards a web show you took for granted. And all you ever pay attention to is the people who agree with the toxic sludge you spew out of your keyboard. If you really love the show, you would have cut it cold turkey and you would start losing interest and keep insults. You call jokes to yourself no matter how many good episodes they release afterwards. Instead, you're always unhappy. Look at stop delivering the content you want, so you project yourself as a nostalgia blind hipster who ships the goal post the moment someone points out the flaws in your argument. Most of your reviews are hate watching disguised as feedback, so instead of being written by a creator who understands the source material by heart, you sound like these losers. I hate to find out this is how you treat any other YouTubers, or how hard it will be work with you if you ran your own animation studio. You care about SMG4 as much as Bob Chapek cares about animation, and DC just fired him out for long after what he said. Not to mention, you believe all their current supporters are young children, when you were a kid yourself discarding the agenda and excuse others shaming them out of jealousy. You treat nitpicks as they were big issues endangering the series, such as some Mario characters being too nice for your liking. Whenever they make a joke based on a meme you don't like, anything related to anime which you believe is the only hentai and swords fight despite your vision of the show being vulgarity and violence. The AI generation style, which is no different from how the guards and Bob speak. The Mario side videos, which are optional and not lore heavy in the slightest. And even how they change their video and titles and thumbnails says that's not a common workaround YouTubers use about ironically clickbaiting. The cherry on top is you complaining about Mario acting like a man-child, because that's exactly what you are since you're insecure about others telling you off, immature, disrespecting what's supposed to be your favorite cartoon, and demonizing guys like me, appreciating 9% of what they do. Even when they release something you like, you're incredibly patronizing as fuck. You're just as bad as the fans you hate. All this amounts to you wanting SMG4 to fail. Yeah, you will make a last-ditch effort to defend the classic catalog, but not the creators as humans whenever social media slams them for the same reasons you do. You're what's wrong with the SMG4 community because you're part of sectional facilitation with free content as well as your ego and attitude rubbing off on your chicken shit followers. Like a dictator or ordering his soldiers to turn their land into a war zone. There's a little that separates you people from entities like Cinnamon Sun spitting in the face of real media reviews, paid up with their backwards luggage of promoting a good cause, and Cinemassacre Truth, a hate group on the ABGN using propaganda against James Wolfie and his co-workers, bullying them to make better videos. How you trolls treat Glitch should explain why they don't listen to you, because according to your last review, you honestly think it's a soulless billion-dollar company with nobody but them knows how much money they actually make, and they usually film themselves to thank the audience for the support. So you can't say it's no different from Rooster Teeth or Channel Awesome who sweep things on the rug. Also, this little thing hardly matters, but your gamers are doubly predictable and half-hearted, so SMG4 isn't the only one making bad jokes here, aren't they? Vic, if you even care, we threw some damning assumptions against you in the segment. We gave you the benefit of the doubt. You knew deep down that you're doing is wrong, but you never reach out away from your comfort zone. Explain your behavior to at least prove us you're not a complete asshole. If you're starting that now, it's a little too late. After you came out, you were done watching new episodes. Instead of moving on and sticking to posting clips regularly like you said, you double down your negativity, making it clear to us you're not mad anymore. Or worse, you have a diagnosis, narcissistic personality disorder that needs to be checked out. I'm sure your therapist will understand that Mario cartoon gives you anger issues. Also, to anyone who says the first few days were just a fluke, and he keeps his promise by now. Say what you want about Dab, but at least he and his community had the courtesy to stop watching SML when they weren't enjoying it anymore. It's a miracle FM and bGevko can tolerate reviews on a show that's made for fun to this very day. They deserve compensation for it since they work on themselves and have disapproved the lies you endorse. You guys are lucky you haven't been sued by bGevko for borderline defamation and abuse for doing their goddamn job. As you're the perfect example of content over creators and a good reason why your main website is the biggest cesspool known to mankind. It makes me happy knowing the big bad billionaires trying to take it away because honestly, it's a match made in hell with you two. But to be remotely fair, I had just one final piece of advice if it ever goes through your skulls. You can grow up, accepting what's done is done, moving on to other entertainment like I don't know, making your own videos, or you could go fuck yourself or have a nice life. It's your choice, but I'm not expecting no results from your kind since you keep screaming into a void the longer your echo chamber is still out for anyone to see. Finally, doesn't it feel good to get rid of the internal demon of yours? Anyway, I might as well answer why I made these rants on the SMG4 community and push them into reviews. I have a lot more room airing my thoughts here than I do on Twitter, but the cost of visibility due to how small my channel is, so I don't think I'll change a lot of minds. I'm just sick of all the constant arguing over something that isn't really deep, unless they are subjects about how YouTube's policy can truly affect content for the most part. I don't enjoy calling out the fandom's bad behavior because it wasn't always like this. The element I miss the most in SMG4 is the lack of toxicity, no whining about who's in the episode or isn't, no complaining about which character gets the blame for their actions. Any video idea it's accepted by the fans because it'll be fun to watch, and another people how they following are terrible people for making different videos. I get that bad apples are inevitable when it comes to fan bases, but there's no excuse for that stuff. I've seen throwing out a look account which they can be demotivating to any channel their size. Even some of the feedback that does come from a respectable place, I have trouble verifying that there isn't a trace of pettiness. I got a backlash myself for telling the truth about joining their stuff non-stuff that says they're more respectable idols passing their prime. It doesn't matter if it's from a minority anymore because recent history shows is what they're capable of deep down. I guess it means this show is truly one of a kind. Considering how much its followers leech off it through love and hate, it challenges the mantra of jumping the shark. Because it isn't confidential entertainment, especially when you compare it to the other glitch shows. Or maybe I'm just deflecting myself that these videos are really a waste of time, and it's pointless to fan guys who will never become friends with. To the 50 viewers still watching or listening, just answer me. Why am I still seeing disclaimers about the fandom on the SMG4 wiki? Why do I have to keep bumping into low quality regulations they call shitposts complaining about the channel in my recommendations? Why are Midrunner and Merge Jones fans suddenly at each other's throats? Why are the comments in this community poll more mature than the 1,000 replies on Twitter? Yes, if this is improved, they're aware how poorly they treated on the platform. Then I must be fully losing my mind. I'm sorry I'm not trying to give an impression. I'm as miserable as this guy.
Why is someone trying to ruin my life?
I only want to know why is SMG4 an exception of rule not to attack artists for their work. At this point I've given up trying to turn this around myself, spreading the message that life on the internet doesn't have to be toxic. So this is my final fan discussion on the channel. If you learn anything from these, then it's fantastic to know I did reach out to someone outside my bubble. Please comment your thoughts on down below to see if there's anything I missed or something I didn't know. I'll still be talking about it in my streams on Twitter, depending how much time left the place has. But over here, I'm done. I'm not going to give those hypocrites the time of day regular anymore. From now on, the reviews will be only about episodes themselves, and not what others think to lean towards positivity, and I'm not going back on that promise. That's enough jabbering, so let's not waste any more time and move on to the remaining episodes.
Ah! Benson! Benson! Oh man, please don't be dead. He's still breathing. He's just unconscious.
What are we gonna do? He's totally gonna fire us when he wakes up.
Dude, cool it. I gotta think. Okay.
Mario and 4 are playing the being a man's favorite racer, and the latter taunts him after victory. So the butthurt plan to throw his controller into the light, breaking in. I'm not sure if the Chrono ever used the light bulb instead of the sun, but I digress. Now they have forced themselves to replace it, but the surreal bug bites their little problem as we see Toad sabotaging their plan after Mario tries to use him as a bulb. The world is power going on, so Luigi helps for a bit, but gets captured by his enemies, thus the Boos invade the castle. The duo head for the basement and briefly bump into Depresso, whose debut is still up for a question and it still happened. So he hands out the magic sausage pills to the ghosts as a diversion because they believe they could grow back. But it was a trick to revive King Boo and the Conan in the hazy maze room. Toad arrives aggrieved that he's been treated like a prop by Mario for several years, but he shoves him into the main power source. The hot air from his rage manages to make Goo jealous by restoring Earth's power and vaporizing the Boos. The memes keep on going with these guys, so nothing will truly stop them. A solid start to a brand new period of the series. It's a basic but fun and wacky episode, perfect for any occasion than just an arc and epilogue. The new model, despite its technical problems, can still provide expressive animation like the rest of the cast. It's pretty talented stuff for a weekly 10-minute cartoon. The scenario might even take too much breathing room for a premise this simple, but the characters actually make up for the slow pacing. Take this video as a warning for folks out there who are irresponsible with the lights. Now on to our final video of the month. The game are at the gym preparing a basketball game to prove who's the most ballin'. Proving taking things literally can be beneficial. They split into two teams of 4 with SMG4, Mario, Bob, and Medley on the home team, and SMG3, Luigi, Maggie, and Bookends on the opposing team. Maggie is unjustly angry she wasn't chosen for the other team because she's too short. Yet Bookends is the shortest one. It would have been more sense to tell her she's over-competitive and cocky when it comes to sport, unless the lie was so soft and below. They dunk a couple goals and start cheating the further in the game progresses. But remembering what the mutant athlete said, it is a legit strategy. Later on, both teams start shooting for the stars by launching themselves into the space and keep playing on the moon. 3 deliberately tells off Michael Jordan that Space Jam and New Legacy is better than the original. But to be honest, both movies are equal quality. This turns the moon into Skull Kid's favorite toy because it to crash into Earth and destroy the building they were in. Today, opponents determined Medley witnesses her bed in flames and unleashes her powers to win the game as revenge. 3 orders Luigi to transform into his hunky persona to even the odds, and the sport becomes a battle of the ages. 1 action sequence later, Luigi scores the most goals before time is out, rendering 3 team the winners. Medley goes back to normal nap being, and Mario's extremely impressed by his brother for once. Though if you ask me, no one ever balled harder than this guy.
What's up, bitches? Sup, bitches?
Perfect score. Space Jam and regular show had a baby, and this is what the end results will be like. An ensemble of characters attempting chaos in a highly entertaining cartoon, which is everything I asked for in the series. Bob and Buchan's redesigns show their potential here, like the part where the aquatic food pretends to be a ball and gets popped. All the characters have healthy amount of screen time without compromising the insanity that goes on in the second half. So the future unironically looks bright for the world and colorful people and their unhinged misadventures. If there's just one thing to take away from this video, I never had to make one as long as this again. Speaking from the heart here, I appreciate your support for my review series if you understand why I went on about the community being one big unfunny joke. Even if you disagree on a bunch of things I said, you'd be happy to hear you out if you can tame the beast, of course. At least, I look forward to Glitch's future output. I hope you will stick around to know what I think about it. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys staying safe this holiday season, and I will see you in my next videos, and maybe streams too. Peace out.
Sonic, look out behind you! Oh, what is it? Oh, shit!